All right, Buffalo George, how are you today?
Hi, Buffalo brother John. How you doing?
I'm good.
Ready to talk about some Buffalo Bills
Yes.
post draft,
Trade deadline.
post trade deadline.
Trade
I'm sorry,
yes.
post trade deadline, and the upcoming Cincinnati Bengal game.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I'm ready.
All right. So let's see. Just before the trade deadline, the Bills got a couple of players.
Mm-hmm.
First player they got that we know of was Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette.
Playoff Leonard.
Playoff Leonard. He was drafted in 2017, which means he's only been in the league 6 years. So he's still got plenty tread on the tire.
He should.
He should.
Now, I am here in Orlando, and we get a lot of Buccaneer coverage.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm here with you now.
There have been times when it's been exciting. Now, I got to admit, when Brady was here, a lot was going on with the Bills, so I didn't pay all that much attention. But there was a lot of buzz here. Partway through the season, they got their hands on Fournette.
Okay.
Came in, and he didn't start right away. But down the stretch and through the playoffs, which is where he got his nickname, he played very well. And
you keep talking. I'm going to turn the fan on. It's a little more better.
He became a very important player for them. Brady used him quite a bit out of the backfield. He was a pass catcher, and some, he was their 3-down back essentially.
Yeah.
All right. The second year, he shows up to camp, and as the season is progressing, he's not getting used as much as he did the previous year. He's not having the success, and there are other running backs that are kind of getting used more. So coaches are reticent to talk about it, but the scuttlebutt that you heard on the local media circuit was he came into camp a little heavy. And although as the season would go on, you would kind of get more into shape, it was one of those where he came into camp a little heavy. They didn't use him as much. When they did use him, then he started with the nagging injuries.
Right.
And the coaches are always pointing back to, you came into camp heavy. You can't. This league isn't the kind of league where you can come to camp and
you can't play yourself into shape.
You can't play yourself into shape. You can't, yeah. So for whatever reason, now as you know, the second season with under Brady last year, it wasn't the same, and they tried to run it back. They really couldn't. So he was probably one of the disappointing characters in that group, but he did have a nice little stint with them, and of course he played for several years in Jacksonville. What do you think? What do you think of this move?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think with a series of statements and questions to you. The Bills played on Thursday night against Tampa Bay.
They did.
And they moved the ball very well. They used tempo. They had their rhythm, right, finally going.
Stayed on schedule.
And they threw the ball around. Diggs had 9 catches. Davis had 9 catches.
Right. I think 6 for Killier.
Yeah, the weapon that is Shaquille Kair had 6 catches, and Dalton Kincaid had 5 catches. But John, who didn't have any catches?
Running backs.
Oh,
very, very little work to the running backs. Yeah.
And they went out and got Leonard Fournette. And what's Leonard Fournette's best attribute on the offense?
He has really turned into a good hands kind of running back. Coming out of college, he looked like a runner. Mm-hmm. And that's what he did quite a bit at Jacksonville. But with the Buccaneers, he displayed a lot of really good hands. And Brady used him quite a bit as
in
a
the passing game.
Yeah,
as a check down. And did the Bills throw to the check down back?
Almost never.
So what did Bean do? He went out and got another guy that can catch out of the backfield, a good check down for Josh Allen, who doesn't throw to the check down back.
He did not throw to the
So as much as I like Leonard Fournette, I really don't know what it is they plan to do with him. That's my take on it. They don't throw to Cook very often out of the back. They do some. We've watched time and time again, and again in this game on Thursday night, where the back as the check down was wide open and easily could run for a first down, and Josh Allen turned away from those passes ran around. Fortunately, he was able to make a lot of those passes farther down the field with his moving and giving the wide receivers a chance to get open. But he didn't take the sure pass. He didn't keep moving the sticks. He kept looking for his wide receivers, and then, if not, his tight end. You got to remember, the tight end was only the number 4 receiver this week, and he didn't want the check down back. So, as much as we like Leonard Fournette, what do you think that the Bills are going to do with him?
I think they're going to put him on the practice squad.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he's going to stay. Unless they have an injury. But he's insurance. Instead, the case
you think maybe he's just insurance for a guy like Murray because they already lost Deontay Hardy? And maybe not
Harris.
Deontay Hardy. Harris. Damian Harris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's insurance.
Okay.
Deep insurance. So when Harris was on the team, they were dressing all 3 of those guys. Cook, Harris, and Murray.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to call this a bad move.
I don't know if this means that he will in the future get a jersey on game days. I think he probably won't unless we see another injury.
We picked up a guy who is on a winning Super Bowl team with just in the last few years, and was a major contributor in that playoff run for them, including the Super Bowl. And we're saying that maybe he's going to sit on the bench. And so, I mean, it's still a good pickup, but whether or not McDermott's going to talk to his offensive coordinator and Dorsey's going to call the plays and they're going to talk to Allen and tell him to start taking some of these throws. Josh is going to be Josh. Who's going to be Josh? There's no change in that. We know that. If you don't know that by now, then you haven't been watching Buffalo Bill football. He's going to do what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it, and no ifs, ands, or buts.
The other thing that Fournette is good at,
blocking.
Well,
let's see.
That might be enough to get him a jersey on game days.
He's a big guy. You don't have that second tight end and 12 personnel.
Linebackers.
They could bring in two running backs, and one of them could be Fournette and the block, and Cook could sneak out. We don't know. We just don't know. We don't know.
We don't know. But if they want to continue with one running back in the backfield, if Fournette's back there, there's a good chance he's back there for pass protection.
So my take is
your reminder. Gina's birthday.
My take is that Bean picked up a good player with a lot of experience in playoffs and deep into the playoffs, and a Super Bowl winner, and but I don't know if they'll use him. We'll see. Let's hope they figure out a way to use his experience and his whatever he brings to the team.
Over the next few weeks, I think he will learn blocking responsibilities.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be in soon. We may not see him until after the bye.
He's insurance in case there's another injury.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So we also picked up a cornerback from Green Bay.
Rasul Douglas.
That's it. Rasul Douglas. Now, this was a trade.
Mm-hmm.
This was not a free agent pickup. The one thing about Fournette, regardless of what experience he's had in the past, we're 8 games into the season and nobody wanted him. That's not an accident. He was just sitting around because nobody was interested in putting him on a team. So he's deep insurance. Rasul Douglas was a starter. Rasul Douglas, from what we hear, was important to their team. Like, every team has locker room leaders. Like, we know on the sideline in practice, Stephon Diggs is an alpha. He's an alpha dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is that Stephon will get at the receivers for dropping balls and running route run.
Yeah.
So in the wide receiver room, when the coach is pointing out guys not taking the right option, not running the route right, Stephon is there. He's calling them out.
The last
Rasul. Rasul was the kind of guy that younger players would go to for advice, and peers and older players were looking to because he's a stand-up guy. He's a good teammate. From what we've seen on Twitter today, a couple of different current Packers talking about how much they're going to miss him.
That's right. And even Aaron Rodgers talked about how good he's been or was.
Yeah, a year or two.
And the last time we got a Packers defensive back, it was Micah Hyde.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be nice if we get another. Well, no, it would be nice if we got another guy who's sticks around long as Hyde, right?
Yeah. So my take on is, and we listened to Bean's interview, press conference on it, and what he said is that he was looking for cornerbacks because we have injuries there and there's a need. And that he talked about how Kaiir Elam, and we've been talking negatively about him on this channel, but Kaiir Elam, he said, has a nagging injury, I think his ankle injury. And they're wondering whether they should shut him down to give that ankle time to heal before they try him again. So if that's the case, they needed more help in the cornerback room. And he said he inquired about the top tier guys all the way down to just people that could fill the spot. And that he thought that Rasul Douglas was a guy that was certainly good enough to make the team and would live within what our budgets for what we wanted to spend. We got him and a 5th round pick, and we gave up a 3rd round pick, and he felt that was a fair deal. So he picked up a guy that he thought was good. He'd be good in the locker room and good on the field at a price we could afford. So the thing is, okay, he's not the top tier cornerback, but he's a good cornerback. And right now, I think he will improve the team. He will raise what we have in our cornerback room from what we have right now, because Kaiir Elam, whatever excuse you want to use, if it's his ankle or he just isn't getting it, this guy can defend against the pass and he can come up to the line and make a tackle.
Well, hold on. So you said a lot there, but let me just focus on that one thing. Here at the end, you were talking about he improves the room. Do you mean he's raised the floor, or is he going to help actually with performance on the field?
I think he's going to. I don't know that he would be our starter. I think Trey White would be out there and Benford would be out there if they were both available. So I think maybe he could be good enough to be the number 3 guy.
So
we have to use him because we don't have Trey White, and Elam, who maybe should have been the number 2 guy, but Benford's won that position. Kaiir Elam might have been the number 3 guy, but he's got this nagging ankle injury. So this would be a very good backup, I think, on our team. And he's going to come in and play and make us better than what we have out there right now.
Okay. A couple of things. So we saw that press conference with Bean today. Mm-hmm. Important to note, the Bills can afford Douglas this year because of what's left to pay on his contract.
Yeah, what did you say that was? You heard that number.
1.6 million. Okay. Is what he's left to be paid. He had gotten some bonus money earlier.
And the team opened money before the trade deadline.
They freed up money.
The
thing about Douglas, though, is he's got a $9 million number for next year. Mm-hmm. So I can't imagine that they would pay that. So they'll either have to let him go or get him to renegotiate, do some sort of renegotiation.
Didn't you say that none of it's guaranteed next year?
None of it's guaranteed.
So I guess he's playing for a job right now. He's coming in here. He's going to show the Bills, listen, I'm good enough for this team and good enough to be a starter. I mean, I think a $9 million a year guy should be a starter, unless you think that's what a backup brings. So let's see if he plays good enough that we can consider him a starter. We got Kaiir Elam. We're not going to pay him, that's for sure. Not right now.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens. Like
Mhm.
the Bills have had players that they've signed as free agent play well and then just let them walk. The defensive tackle, Phillips, was
Mhm.
one that comes to mind with that. A couple years ago, they signed him. He had a really good year with Buffalo, and then they just let him walk. And he ended up going and getting the big money.
You don't
With
know.
the
Green
Cardinals, I
Bay,
think.
Green Bay could be counting on that. Got finagled themselves a 3rd-round pick and sent this guy out for rent, and maybe they're going to re-sign him again next year themselves if the Bills don't sign him.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
They also might have been looking at a guy that they knew that they weren't going to resign, and they just got something for him.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. At this point, it doesn't matter. He comes on the team, and his forte is supposed to be. Now, I haven't watched any film on this guy. I saw a highlight film where he made a couple of interceptions, and he has a number of interceptions in his career. He's supposed to be really good at zone, which, as you know, the Bills play a lot of zone.
Right. Exactly
So
right.
we'll see. He might walk down the field, and he might start off with substituting, and then within a few games he might take over one of those starting spots.
Yeah, I think they picked up a good guy, a defensive back there, a good cornerback. Whether he turns out to be a great cornerback, I don't know, but he's certainly better than what we can put on the field right now. But he's not just okay; he's a good cornerback. That's what we're hearing. So, with the entire defense as a whole, plugging the spot of cornerback with a good cornerback when you're coming against a lot of passing teams coming up on our schedule, that's a good thing.
Yeah, there's a chance he unlike Fournette, who we really don't think will get a jersey for 3 or 4 weeks at the earliest. There is a possibility that he could get a jersey as early as this week.
Yeah, it's possible.
That is a possibility.
Yeah.
Even though you wouldn't roll him out there to start or take a majority of the snaps, they might put him out there in certain packages that he is already familiar with.
We're going to be talking about Cincinnati here, and they've got receivers. They got to be covered. And Joe Burrows can get the ball out in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
So we need guys that can react. We need guys that can make interceptions, and this kid is one.
Well,
Douglas can make interceptions.
Well, the downside of using early is the Bills defense uses a great deal of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And without practice, and you just don't know how that will fit in. So there may be packages where they feel comfortable using them, but I wouldn't expect them to get a lot of snaps if they do even get a jersey. But we're likely to see him more as the weeks go by. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
All right. That's the trade deadline talk. The only other thing was a no trade. Kaiir Elam, KFE.
Kaiir Elam
is still on the team. So I think we both were expecting them to trade him. So Brandon Bean did address that a little bit today.
Tell us how he addressed that, because that was absolutely unbelievably interesting.
Well, we heard the press conference, and I didn't really hear him say this, but the way it's being reported is that today Bean said they received some calls inquiring about Elam. The Bills were not interested in trading him, and there was no discussion with any team about trading him, and he didn't call anyone to solicit a trade for him. So he was never on the trading block. The second thing we heard today, and it's the first time I've heard this, Elam has been suffering with an ankle injury.
First time I've heard about it. A mysterious ankle injury just pops up after the trade deadline. Isn't that amazing?
I don't remember him being on the injury reports.
Nope.
But a ankle injury and the possibility that they may put him on IR, shut him down, as B put it. So shut him down. I did hear this part about him possibly had the ankle injury. or he's dealing with an ankle thing,
Yeah.
and they might shut him down. Now, if you put him on IR, he would be eligible again in 4 weeks. But that would be 4 weeks that you have that extra spot on the 53-man roster.
Right.
So we could see that happen. It could happen before Saturday. It could happen after Saturday. I'm sorry, Sunday's the game, Sunday night game. It could happen next week when Douglas might be ready, a little bit more ready. So we don't know. We don't know how real this ankle injury is. We don't know what the heck is going on there. What I can tell you is there was a ton of speculation the last 2 weeks about him not fitting in, what the defense wants to do. No.
Let me throw something at you. Talking about needing a spot on the defensive side of the ball. You need an open spot for the 53-man roster. We heard plenty of talk about Ndamukong Suh coming to the Bills.
We have heard some rumblings about Ndamukong Suh, yeah.
As a matter of fact,
36 years old.
Didn't you say that you read that it was like they were acting like it was a done deal?
I did. Now that's not from Sue or Sue's agent.
Nope.
So we'll see. But apparently the Bills and Sue have absolutely been talking. Not a surprise that if they are thinking of signing him, that they wouldn't sign him before the trade deadline, because there was always a possibility they could bring somebody in and then not need him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. There is also the possibility, like, he may not be interested in a practice squad position. That could be the holdup here.
That could be the all of a sudden.
There is a limit to how much you can make on the practice squad, and he may not be willing to come in.
That could be the Kyrie Elam goes to IR.
That could be.
Opens up a 53-man roster spot.
Yeah, that could be the holdup.
Now, we don't know this is happening, but that's what we're hearing. That's the rumble out there. And all of a sudden, they're talking about maybe shutting down Elam. And of course, that would create the spot open for Suh. So, I mean, these things all can work together, but we just don't really know yet. But that's the talk out there, guys, is Suh to the Buffalo Bills. He's 36 years old, 53 years old. No, he's 36 years old. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska. I was fortunate enough to watch him play his game down there, and the kid was a monster. I've never seen anybody do what he can do. He took guys and he just actually threw them. I mean, literally threw them off their feet. They would fly through the air out of his way. Now that's college. So does he have anything left in the gas tank? We'll see. We'll find out if this is all really happening.
Well, this would be another deep insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they lost Jones.
Mm-hmm. Daquan Jones. And so they've got a spot.
Well, they do, but they typically only dress forward defensive tackles.
Look, they went out and got Poona Ford that they bragged all about. We're not even watching him play. And now that the need is there that they have to use Poona Ford, all of a sudden they're talking about Ndamukong Suh. So,
well, again, you're talking about a guy who isn't even on a team.
Yeah.
So
straight from the couch.
If they get him, they're not replacing Poona Ford with him. He's insurance in case there's another player.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, you would only see limited action, maybe even just packages. So certain packages. So not someone that's going to be a difference maker for you. And another reason why they would really like to stuff him on a practice squad.
Ndamukong Suh's got a couple of rings already from the Super Bowl. I think he played in 3. He played with the Rams, they lost. Played with Tampa Bay, and they won. Where else could he have won one? Mm-hmm. There's two Super Bowls right there. I thought he played in 3, but he's got 1 win and 1 loss, so he does have a ring. I don't know that he's going to take lead veteran minimum to sit on a bench anywhere, but
well, that's the thing.
He doesn't need the money, but you never know.
It depends. That's why it's a negotiation.
Somebody
right?
like Von Miller would have to come forward and say, "Listen, Sue, please come in and help us." You know, that there would be somebody like that talking in his ear that might get him to come. I don't think any of the other players, maybe Diggs on this team, could possibly talk him into it.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about players on the team recruiting them.
All right, so what do you think about this week's game coming up? Cincinnati Bengals, the rematch in Cincinnati, the one where Damar Hamlin was injured so bad, and we thought maybe he wasn't going to make it. Unfortunately, he's back, and he could play in this game. We don't know. We'll see.
I think it's probably unlikely that he'll get a jersey, but it'll be nice for him to be back in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming the Bills will bring him, even if they don't start him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been because he's been on the 53. He's on the 53-man roster. They've just made him a healthy scratch,
Right.
so he would be in the stadium because you don't have to submit your finals until 90 minutes before the game. So he would be there just kissing them. That's it. It'll be a nice, it's an achievement. It's a wonderful achievement. What he's done in bringing himself back is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. All right,
But they still have a game to play.
let's talk about Bills' offense against the Bengals' defense. Do you think that how can we attack the Bengals' defense? I understand that their defensive line is a little soft and you can run on them. So are the Bills planning to run against the Bengals?
Well, I'll tell you what, if they can, that would be fantastic. I don't know that they'll be able to, but if they can, that would be fantastic.
You know, I hear you, but you know, Cook is the number 5 rushing back in the league. It's not like he doesn't run the ball. He does. He's number 5 in the league in total rush yards.
Well, may I remind you
Yeah.
that he broke 100 yards a couple of times this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Against very poor defenses.
Yes.
Against
And that's
defenses
something
that couldn't get out of
He's
their own
something
way.
that he should do.
And
And he did it.
And then against good defenses, he's either been silent or gained about 60 yards. So if the Bills are going to have a running game against Cincinnati, it'll be one of persistence, where they give him the ball 15 times. He may only get 40, 45 yards out of that, but they keep giving it to him because they are determined to.
I might disagree with you a little bit there.
Well, you can be wrong all you like. That's fine.
When like this last game, Cook had against Tampa Bay 67 yards rushing. Not bad, not great, but the Bills weren't running the ball. They were throwing the ball. And when Cook did give it an opportunity to run, he ran it well.
Yeah, my issue wasn't so much Cook, but I don't think the offensive, I think the offensive line falters against good defenses. So you had said that the defensive front maybe isn't that, for Cincinnati, isn't that great against the run. And that'd be great.
I'll
that
tell you
would
what,
be fantastic. If he could get 60 yards,
I'm really
that might be
starting to believe. This is in the back of my mind here. I'm really starting to believe that the Bills' offensive line. Hold on to your hat. This is a take. The Bills' offensive line is a better running line than they are pass defense.
Yeah,
pass blocking.
That's so ridiculous. I don't even know where to start.
I think that they are a good run blocking team that doesn't get an opportunity enough to run the ball. They're constantly in pass blocking, and they're not good enough at pass blocking. We got guys that are good at the run. You got McGovern, he's good at the run. You got Osiris Torrance, he's good at the run. Spencer Brown, he can get out there and block at the next level. But you put him in pass blocking, and these guys are tripping them all over themselves. And Josh Allen's running around like a Jimmy Legs. I think they're a better pass blocking front line.
Well,
That's my take.
You better hope you're wrong. Well, look, it's not a team that starts off the game with, we're going to establish a run.
Mhm.
Or we're not a physical team like that. So when you go 4 and 5, 4 wideouts to spread the defense out, and from that you're able to get some yards in the ground, that's great. That's the kind of stuff that Cook might be particularly good at.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That doesn't make them offensive line a good run blocking team. I don't know that Spencer Brown is good at anything.
Okay.
Like that. Torrance came out of college. We had a lot more experience in run blocking than pass blocking.
Morris is a better run blocker than pass blocker. There's our center.
Well, Morris is a good mobile blocker, like helping you to get, if you want to attack the edges, you're going to pull your center. That's probably his strength.
Mm-hmm.
What isn't his strength is running between the tackles.
Even Deion Dawkins, you're seeing him pull as a tackle. You get these guys against that big freaking Deion Dawkins, that monster of a man, and they can move the ball. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And the next game, just watch for it. Just see what happens, because I think the Bills are becoming better at running
Look, that's
than
fantastic.
they are in pass blocking.
No, well, I don't think that's true. I think they are becoming better at running. But then you went up against the Giants with those 2 good defensive tackles, and their run game disappeared.
And then Josh Allen.
And their pass blocking sucked. Ryan Allen was all having run quite often.
Now the Bills, people can challenge me and say, look what the Bills did against Tampa Bay. They threw the ball. They threw to both wide receivers, extremely successful, a tight end, and help me out here, slot guy.
So Shakir?
Yeah. They were very successful throwing the ball against Tampa Bay. But why? Because Josh got the ball out so fast, getting the ball out of his hands in under 2.3 seconds. I think it was 2.27 seconds.
Fast, yeah.
That's the fastest in the league, period. And that is to help that offense, the weakness on the offensive line, number one, that can't pass block good enough. And number 2 is to get that up tempo and keep Tampa Bay guessing. And it worked. And it worked really well. They managed to score 24 points. They need to get better. I don't know what happened to the team that scored 48 against Miami. I really don't know what happened to that team, John. It's like you go back and watch that game and you go, where are these guys? But that's what they're back to now. And I think against Cincinnati, you're going to see them attack quickly again. I think you're going to see them attack with a ground attack. They got to try and keep Cincinnati off the field. They need to work in conjunction with their defense to keep the ball control in Buffalo's side of the clock, because Cincinnati has got a good attack. They're getting better and better. The teams that they're 4-3. They've come back. They're 4-3. The teams they've beat in general are not very good teams, but they did have a good win this week.
A team that's 500.
Yeah.
So,
which, what is the Bill? What are the Bills? Are they a 500 team? Are they a 600 team?
Okay. Well, we have different thoughts.
You gave me the side eye. No, I don't think they're a 500 team. I think the Bills are better than a 500 team.
Yeah,
But
look,
that's how they've been playing.
their strength of their team is the offense moves around Allen, which is not uncommon in the NFL.
No.
But because of Allen's athleticism and whatnot, they have had some very good seasons.
And he started to run the ball again a little bit, and that created some havoc for Tampa Bay.
Tampa was not ready for that.
They were not ready for the Bills.
Tampa was not ready for that. They also didn't I don't know, they didn't pressure with their linebackers as much as I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what? They went into it with their own game plan for that they thought would work, and it really didn't work too well against the Bills. We'll have to see Cincinnati is a very different team, and a very different defense. So we'll have to see what they do.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
they're a trickier defense. Where with the Bills kind of show you one thing, and then sometimes after the snap they move their defensive backs. Bengals do that quite a bit. So we'll have to see. This game is gonna take maybe a little bit more. Allen may have to be a hair more cerebral in his ability to read and pick up reads. Now, if he's willing to run, like if option one is suddenly taken away because they're playing zone instead of man, and he's willing to, okay, I'm just going to run. That could add a level of effectiveness to the offense. So we'll see how that goes. He really seemed much more willing to run in this pass against the Buccaneers than we've seen so far this year almost.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, so the Bills have not won 2 games in a row in a month. So we'll see if they can do it on the road in Cincinnati. What do you think Cincinnati, how do you think the Bills defense is going to attack Cincinnati? Or do you think they're just going to reel against the onslaught of those receivers? And Joe Mixon.
Yeah. Well, I think the Bills have a real problem here. Like their scheme, that 4-2-5, is really not designed to stop the run. Their best run stopping defensive tackle is sitting in a pectoral muscle, so he's out maybe for the year. Milano is not there. In the last game, Dorian Williams did not play a defensive snap. Some of the defense in the last game was kind of smoke and mirrors. But now that's on tape. So they may have to have a little bit more substance this week, and we'll see if they can. I think the Cincinnati might put up 40.
You do, you think that? Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals.
At home? Yeah, I think they might put up 40.
When Burrows has the time to throw, those receivers will get open. Let's face it, they've got Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. And those guys are going to get open if you give them the time. And if you send back the guys in coverage and you're weak in the front, Joe Mix is going to run you over. So they've got a hell of an offense there.
Well, you got 2 problems. If you try to play the 3 down linemen, only attack with 3, or just attack with 4, and you're not going to bring anybody else, sometimes he'll just stand there because they'll pass block fine and just eat you apart, even though you have all these extra defensive backs and whatnot. It would really help. I mean, this is a game where you went out and got Von Miller for. This is it. You're here.
This is it.
This is the time.
This is a team where you want your front forward
to be able to put pressure on.
To be able to put pressure on.
Rousseau has to have a game. Oliver's got to have a game. Von Miller's got to show up. Who's the tall fellow? I forgot that we just got to share. We've been praising him.
Floyd.
I wanted to say Long, but I knew that was wrong. They've got to have a game. The front 4 need to show up. Even that guy, Kingsley Jonathan. Let's see him in the backfield wrecking some havoc. But as they have to add pressure from safeties and cornerbacks and even linebacker, that could really be a problem. If they don't add it because they don't need to, that's fantastic. If they need it and they add it, they could get chewed up pretty quickly.
I think you're going to see our defense do a lot of faking on blitzes and drop back into coverage, and Burrow's going to read the blitz coming, and then he's going to throw it, and he might get intercepted. Or he's not going to be able to release the ball because he realizes it's covered, and by then we got a guy in there that can sack him. I think that's how they're going to have to play this game. Pressure, fake the blitz, and then drop into coverage. And while you got a guy up there that's faking the blitz, if they hand it off, at least you got a guy up there that can help stop Mixon. I think that's what the Bills are going to do this week.
Okay. Yeah, I think that could be what they try.
I think if any team scores 40 points on the Bills, they're going to win. So I just don't see that happening this week. But I do see it as a close game. Right now, Cincinnati's favored by 2.5 points. It's been a while since we saw the Bills as an underdog.
That is true.
All right, and
it wasn't the old saying 3 points for being at home. So on a neutral field, the Bills would be favored.
maybe.
Well, that's the old saying. I don't know. Okay.
But they
don't play on neutral field.
They've played Cincinnati enough the last 3 years that they should be able to say, we know these guys, we know these receivers, we've been watching them on tape, we've been playing against them.
Is it too soon to say that, yeah, they played them a lot? One time they killed someone. Is it too soon to say that? They killed somebody.
Yeah, that was horrible, but that's true. That's what happened.
And then the playoff game, they beat the living daylights out of them.
But even in the playoff game,
I don't know if lying on their back going "Stop, no mas,"
even
really is the kind of
even in the
playoff
game, they beat up the Bills, but they still only scored 27 points. They didn't score 40 points, and I don't expect to see that this week. But I do see them to score between 24, 27 points in that range. And now can the Bills score more than that? I think it's going to be a close game. And I think the Bills know it's the games. Every one of these games have meaning now. They've already lost a tiebreaker to Jacksonville. And this is if it comes down to playoff seeding. And now they're looking at the possibility if they lose one to Cincinnati. They don't want to lose one to Cincinnati and to Jacksonville and then have to play Kansas City. Yet the Bills could find themselves on the outside looking in. They got to be in front of somebody, and this would be the team. The Bengals, I mean, do you expect them to win 10 games in a row here and be 13-3 or something like that? I don't. But they could be a wild card team behind Baltimore, and the Bills could be a wild card team, and the seeding could make a big difference about who is playing Miami first or who has to play in Kansas City.
All of that is true about seeding and whatnot. And the Bills should absolutely understand the importance of this game. We have yet to see the two teams get on the field and the Bills look like they belong there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right. I got
2 weeks ago.
No problem with that.
Just 2 weeks ago, this same team could not stop Mac Jones. Now, how they're going to stop? I almost said Carson Palmer. How they're going to stop the Bengals?
John, they couldn't stop Tyrod Taylor. Okay. They're going to stop Joe Burrow. They're going to stop Tyrod Taylor. And I love Tyrod. He's not tall enough to see over the trees in front of him.
Look, if the Bills can figure out how to score 30 points, they might have a real chance, but I don't think they're going to. And I think they're going to really struggle against Cincinnati.
See, I don't think so. I think the offense is going to put up points, and I think they're going to hang in for a win. That's why I see it. I think the Bills by 3.
I just want to be clear. The Buffalo Bill defense that has one linebacker is going to stop Mixon and those 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, they won't play with one linebacker. They'll play with 2.
But they did last week. I mean, they used Poyer in the linebackers role. Poyer's tough. But I think that now that they've seen it, I think Cincinnati's going to be ready for that.
Well, you make your call. I'm making mine. 31-28 Bills.
So I'll say 38-20 Cincinnati.
Okay. You're calling for a blowout here. You're calling for them to get beaten up. That's okay. That's great.
The injuries to the defense are significant. And then, unfortunately, not all the players that remember how they were raising the floor?
The floor buckled.
Yeah, buckled a little bit. I think the defense that we saw against the Patriots might rear its ugly head this week.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Enjoy the game. Sunday night football. It's gonna be prime time Bills, and we'll see you in the winner circle.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Bye,
Bye everybody.